Hey, this is the ACT guy, and I'm here to give you tips and tricks for the ACT English section. The ACT English section requires practice and knowledge of both English and the ACT, but is quite easy once understood. It's difficult to explain anything without establishing how English works. This includes clauses, non-essential clauses, and grammar. Starting with clauses, there are two types of clauses: independent clauses, which have a subject and verb, and dependents, which are an incomplete thought. Dependent clauses will start with a subordinating conjunction, which includes things like after, although, when, or while. Independent clauses, with their subject and verb, can always stand on their own if they're alone in a sentence. For example, take the sentence, I went to the store when it was raining. I went to the store is independent with a subject and verb. It could be its own sentence. When it was raining is a dependent with a verb but no subject due to the subordinating conjunction. That could not be its own sentence. How do we form sentences with these clauses? There are many ways to do it. You could just make one independent clause. If you are adding a dependent clause after an independent clause, no extra punctuation is needed. If you have a dependent clause before an independent, a comma will be needed. If you want to put an independent after an independent, you will need a comma and then a fanboys conjunction after. Fanboys stands for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Next, non-essentials are made by putting a descriptive piece about someone or something in between two commas immediately after the subject. A period can end the non-essential clause as well. An example would be, the CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, went to the park. It is very important to know that non-essentials can only be used when the information is non-essential. If we took away Mark Zuckerberg, the sentence would still work. Beware, because in situations like Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg went to the park, it is not non-essential. Without the clause, it'd be Meta CEO went to the park. The correct formatting, referred to as an essential clause, is Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg went to the park. Lastly, grammar, which is split into a few topics, is a little bit complex. First, subject-verb agreements are important. You need to understand what plural variation is needed. The class were quiet should be the class was quiet. If the subject is plural, it gets a plural verb, and vice versa. In this case, we have a singular subject, and was is singular while were is plural. Pronouns are very important to know. Similar to subject-verb agreements, pronouns must be plural or singular according to the subject it's referring to. Relative pronouns like who, that, and which are used in the non-essential and essential clauses mentioned earlier. Relative pronouns can start the descriptive clause. For example, a pencil, which is dull, fell to the floor, is a non-essential clause needing these. An essential clause, like the doctor who is tall left, needs the relative pronoun who. Relative pronouns can also be used to ask questions, like which button did you press, or why did you do that? Another thing very important to know is possessiveness. For direct titles, use an apostrophe S, like John's cat. Also, know that its is possessive, and its with the apostrophe just means it is. Their is possessive, but they with an apostrophe means they are, the same way its does. Alright, there are 6 primary question types on the ACT. I will give an example from each, taken all from a practice test on the official ACT website. 3 have to do with the rules of language. Our first type is punctuation. If you are missing these questions, a quick Google search of punctuation rules will find you everything you'll need. They do tend to include lots of questions about commas. This includes how they relate to clauses, non-essential clauses, and dates. I would highly recommend you to look up one of the many sources giving a description of everything you'll need to know. In this question, presented above, we are quizzed on dashes and commas. Dashes are used to create dramatic pauses the same way commas create non-essential clauses. However, the ACT is careful to not include an answer choice with 2 commas because it would be technically right. All the other options create new clauses and make the sentence incorrect. Thus, A is the right answer. The second type of question will deal with grammar. In these questions, be very sure to read the full question and all answer choices. The ACT will try to catch you on things like tense, narrator, and first or third person. They'll also frequently test your knowledge of what counts as singular and plural for questions about subject, verb, and subject pronoun agreements. Remember, a word that refers to a group of something, like a group, is still singular. In this problem, you are tested on both the possessive pronoun and the verb in their relation to the subject, which is the tree. That is singular. Therefore, the verb can either be die or dies. Sound it out in your head. Does the tree die sound right? No, die is the plural version. For the same reason, the trees die does work. We find the same question in the pronoun at the end, with their, its, and it is with an apostrophe as option choices. It is not their, that is for plurals. Remember, its with an apostrophe means it is, while its with no apostrophe is possessive. Does the tree die once it is large heart is removed sound right? No. They will quiz you on its a lot, so make sure you know how these work. A third type you will deal with is sentence structure. You must read the entire sentence, as the manner of question will change greatly based on the sentence. I would not rush through these. Otherwise, recognize your clauses and choose the formatting proper to fit the clause rules. Don't forget about non-essentials. In this example, we see an introductory phrase. I didn't talk about these, but using one does not make the next clause dependent. In this case, Brazilian chef Alex Atla opened his restaurant in Sao Paulo in 1999 is independent. The clause after the comma is also independent, with its own complete thought. However, the comma has no fanboys after, meaning that they aren't two independents. 3 of the option choices don't actually change the clause, just the introductory phrase. C is the correct answer, because that when merges with the clause, adding a subordinating conjunction and making it dependent, which fits into the sentence structure. The remaining types will be more about your ability to write and convey points, not the rules of English. The first type is about writing strategy. They will ask you what removing or adding statements will do, and whether it's a good idea for the passage. It varies from transitions, to evidence, to main ideas. To help on these questions, I recommend you read the entire English passage, even if there's no questions where you're reading. Also, try to avoid overthinking these questions. Generally, the answer will be simple, so choose and move on. You can't see the beginning of the passage above, but above it states how Atla founded a Brazilian restaurant to promote the country's cuisine. Therefore, option F, the statement already there, fits the theme of him promoting the food in his country. Don't be afraid to choose the no change option. Oftentimes I get caught up and almost ignore it. Do not do that. The fifth type, organization questions, are all the same. They will ask you in which point to put a sentence. These are the A, B, C, and D points found in the passage. They will always ask these questions at the end of a passage. Once again, reading the whole passage will help a lot. Otherwise, make note of what each section of the writing is used for and see how your sentence might apply to that. Feel free to try out how each placement sounds and how it fits into where you're putting it. Here, you can tell where to put the sentence based off the tone of each section. In all the other points, which you can't see, there's yelling, driving, and music. At D, the paragraph right here, it's quiet, peaceful, serene, calming, being the perfect fit for the sentence. Lastly, there are style questions, which will ask about how sentences or phrases should be restricted to best fit the passage based on tone and brevity. It will be very obvious if they are asking about the tone. It is important to note that they will ask you sometimes about the mood of the essay, and sometimes about using formal language appropriate for writing. Then you just have to know the passage and your vocabulary. In this example dealing with tone, A is the best choice, as all the other vocabulary terms don't directly suggest happiness. Otherwise, these questions will be about which statement uses no unnecessary words, making it the most redundant and concise. It is almost always the shortest answer, but it's worth checking the other answer choices just in case. These are very important questions to get used to and know, because you will save a lot of time, effort, and points by quickly recognizing that In this question, I need to be redundant, I need to be concise. Or versus this question, I need to watch my tone. An example, all my answer choices already say something in the paragraph. In option A, the rolled down windows were mentioned above. In option B, the 3-mile distance was once again already mentioned above. In option C, you don't need to know that he's looking backwards. That's what rearview mirrors do. Option D is the shortest and also the best. Another trick question the ACT will throw at you is about subject and verb placement. They are extremely easy questions to miss because most of the answer choices seem right, you pick one, and you move on. Once you learn to recognize these, you can save yourself a point very often. Unfortunately, I could not find one in the ACT practice test, but I can make an example. The vacuum cleaned the carpet while it was low on battery. This may seem right at first glance, especially when you're taking a test, but by the placement of the sentence, the carpet is the one low on battery. If you needed to arrange this properly, you could switch it to, the carpet was cleaned by the vacuum while it was low on battery. As pacing goes, you'll have 35 minutes to do 50 questions. It seems fast, but I find it much easier on time compared to the other sections. I highly recommend you to take at least a part of this section and see how fast you can do those questions, as well as how accurately. The two most common scenarios are either that you are going too fast and making mistakes when you shouldn't, or you are going too slow and not getting to all the questions. The English section will get monumentally easier once you can easily recognize question types and understand the test patterns. So, take note of these and familiarize yourself with them by practicing. If you are going too fast and making mistakes, get in the habit of reading the whole passage, the whole question, and all the answer choices. If you can, don't just find why answer choices are correct, find why they are wrong. Once it clicks, you will do so much better. Some other tips. When doing the English section, trust your gut. The questions are often based on idioms or strange rules of the English language that you should just do what you feel is right and move on. Also, the ACT will test you with whether you should use who or whom. If you know it works, great. If not, it is 99% of the time who. They are trying to bait you, answer who, and move on. I've said it a few times, but read the entire section as you go along. It will help you a lot. They will sometimes ask you about transition words like however, furthermore, and nonetheless. Make sure you know what each one means. The best way to learn the English section is to practice. Make sure to examine what you did wrong. And that's all I've got for you today. Good luck on your ACT, and thank you for watching.